Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for all the comments and all the support that I received from my video last week. It was a very emotional week, so much so that I couldn't even get my words out. And so, yes, today is also another Poetry Thursday. But in view of everything that is going on around the world, I have decided to just answer some of the questions that I've had from my viewers and some of my friends from last week's video. Some of the people have called to ask me, is it really true that I've never experienced racial discrimination? And I thought, where did they get that from? And it seems as if the words we use, sometimes the way we communicate, does not fully cover everything. I could not have covered everything last week. But last week, what I really wanted people to know is that I have friends, and that is the truth. I have friends who have never made me feel different. And the key word here is friends. Those that have made me feel different never became friends. They never became friends. And those that have worked with me for some time, and maybe things, the remarks they made or the stand they took concerning certain issues have made me just simply walk away. I think it's better to walk away than to argue. And so today I'm going to share with you some of the things I consider as racial discrimination. Uh, since being in this country, I've been asked so many questions. Questions like, in Africa, do you have houses or do you live on trees? Okay. I'm sure many Africans have heard that question. And the classic one was a few years ago, we had quite a heat wave in this country. And this man, noble looking man, very educated man, just said to me, Hannah, I want to ask you a question. I said, yes. And he goes, I hope you won't be offended. And I said, I hope not. Then he goes, you come from a hot country, don't you? And I said, yes. And he said, so in this heat wave, when we can't bear the heat, do you feel the heat? And I said, let me ask you a question as well. And he goes, oh. And I said, you come from a cold country, don't you? He said, yes. And I said, in fact, you've never traveled to any hot country in your life, have you? He said, no. And I said, so in winter, when the temperature is 5 degrees below freezing point and I'm shivering, do you feel the cold? Then he paused. And he said, of course I feel the cold. Then I said, so what makes you think that because I come from a hot country, I don't feel the heat? Okay, this is the kind of conditioning that people have been conditioned. People have been told, right back, during slavery. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to go back there. During slavery, our ancestors, they were branded with hot iron because some of them thought the Africans or people with black skin don't feel pain. And that's not true. Okay, so I'm just about to share with you a few of my experiences so that you don't get it wrong. When my son was 6 years old, we had moved to a new city, and fortunately for us, we lived near a school. And that's the school that my children attended. They just had to walk across a field at the back of our house, and they were in the school. And there weren't many black kids in the school. I think there would be about only three black kids in the school. And my son said that there was this white boy in his class sitting next to him who always poked him with his pencil. Then one day, as he was poking him with his pencil, my son hit the boy's hand. It was when my son hit the boy's hand that the teacher saw it. The teacher didn't ask my son any question. He just took my son, picked up his little desk and chair, and put it in front of the head teacher's office. So my son was isolated from the class. He was sitting, he did everything in front of the head teacher's office. That was his classroom. And then I was told that he couldn't go into the dining room to have dinner with all the children. So my son had to come home every lunchtime to have his dinner. Okay? And the report that was given him was that he was disruptive. And I said, oh, because I had heard so many stories. And I said, they are beginning now to profile my son, to label him as disruptive. And so the answer to that, thank God, because we moved. We moved from that area. We went to a different town and we went to a different school. And I told the head teacher of the new school what had happened. He was disgusted. And I asked the head teacher to monitor my son to see how he behaved. He said he's perfect. He's like any other child. Occasionally he lost concentration, but which child doesn't? Okay. Now my son is the most handsome, amazing, thoughtful, kind father and husband. I am tempted to believe that if we had stayed there, that kind of isolation that my son experienced would have affected him badly. So how about those who can just move from that town or change schools? Okay. Where we were as well, my son was 6 years old. And there was this boy that lived up the road from where we were. And he would always throw stones into our garden. We ignored it for some time, but one Saturday, I had a friend with me. My son just screamed and ran into the house. This boy threw a stone and it landed on his face, and his face was covered in blood. So what I did was I took a tissue, mopped some of the blood, and I said, I want this boy's mother to know what her son has done. So this friend who was visiting accompanied me. We knocked on the woman's door. He came out, what do you want? And I said, is your son so and so? She said, yes. What has he done? And I said, I showed her the tissue soaked in blood. And I said, see this blood? Your son came and threw a stone at my son while my son was playing in my garden. My son did not go out, so he can't say that my son was chasing him or anything like that. My son was playing in my garden, and this boy came and threw a stone at him. You know what the mother said? He called the son. Come here. Did you go to play in this woman's house? I don't want you to go there again because I hate black people. She said that to my face. Then I knew and I understood why her son behaved the way he did. And someone may ask me, why didn't you call the police? This was in the 1980s. Which policeman do you call at that time? Plus, if I call the policeman, it would be her word against mine. And I didn't think it was necessary to argue with her, because where her mind was and her attitude was, I couldn't go there. I just could not go there with her. So that's another experience. The third experience was after we moved to this new place, because there isn't any place you can go to in this country where you won't face racial discrimination. Anyway, in this place, the parents won't allow my children to play near their houses. Okay. So I opened my home. All the kids in the neighborhood, we lived in a lovely cul-de-sac, and my house was always full of children. All the kids came to play in my house and in my garden. I opened my doors for them. Guess what? I knew where my children were all the time. They were at home and their friends came to play. That's how I dealt with it. Then in this new place, my husband, I was working a night shift at that time. I was working in a nursing home. And I came home from work feeling very tired. And my husband said, okay, I'll take the kids out. We'll have a day out today. Okay, so they had breakfast, got them ready, got their picnic boxes packed, and they left home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when I locked the door to go and have a rest. Okay, just when I was really enjoying my sleep, it was about 4 o'clock. Boom, 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 boom. Somebody was really knocking the door out. I said, who on earth will be knocking a door like that? So I got up in my night clothes, threw on my dressing gown, opened the door, and there was this man who lived down the bottom street from us. Where is your son? And I said, which of them? I've got two. He said, the one who couldn't ride his bike properly. Oh, I didn't know that my son couldn't ride his bike properly. And I said, is there something wrong? He said, yes, he crashed into my windscreen and broke it. There's blood stains all over my windscreen. And he did not even have the courtesy to come and apologize or say anything to me. And I said, oh, what time did that happen? And he said, it will be about 3 o'clock or 3:30 because I left the car there just before 3 o'clock. And when I came, the windscreen was broken. I knew that it couldn't have been my son because my son, my husband, and all the children went out at 1 o'clock. They parked their bikes at the back of the house and went out at 1 o'clock. So I said, oh, I am so sorry. Listen, I've been sleeping. If this happened, the reason I may not know about this is because my husband didn't want to disturb me. So, has he taken him to A&E? And I said, I don't know. I told you I was sleeping. When they come back and it is my son, we'll come and apologize to you. So he went. In about half an hour, he came again. Boom, 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 boom. I opened the door. He said, are they back yet? And I said, oh, I told you that when they come back, my husband, myself, and my son, we will come to your house. You told me your house number. We'll come. We'll knock on your door and apologize, okay? So he went. Then I decided I better get dressed because he's not going to stop coming. So I changed into my clothes and sat in the living room waiting. Then it was 5:30. My husband and the children had still not returned. There was another knock, knock on the door. And this time, it wasn't as loud as it was previously. So I went to the door, and it was this man again. And he looked a bit sheepish. And he said, oh, I've come to apologize. And I said, what for? He said, the neighbor 2 doors from me, it was her son who crashed into my windscreen. They've just come back from the A&E. He's got his face all plastered. And I'm sorry, I thought it was your son. So I said, what made you think it was my son? And then he goes, because I saw him in the morning and he was wobbly on his bicycle. Saw him in the morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning. He was wobbly on his bicycle. So something happened after 3 o'clock and it was him. So these are some of the things we have to live with daily. And as Black people, we have learned how to live without causing trouble. Because if you raise your voice, you are aggressive. You are the one who is aggressive. If you try, even when you try to explain, no, nobody is going to take your word for it. It is their word against yours. And then I think I will go on forever, but let me just add this. My husband and my son, well, as a family, we had an old friend, a white woman in her 80s who just loved my children. Okay. We were family friends. She used to come to us for a meal and she would bake cakes and scones for us. So we were family. He would just call, "Oh, I haven't seen your boys. Can they come to visit?" Then one day she called me to say, "Hannah, tell your husband and to bring your son to pick up some scones. I've baked some scones for you." And so my husband and my son, who was in secondary school at that time, they went to my friend's house, picked up the scones, and brought them home. An hour later, my friend called me, "Hannah, you're not going to believe this." And I said, "Oh, my dear, what has happened?" He said, "The police came to my door." And I said, "What? Is everything okay?" She said, "Yes, the police came to my door because one of the neighbors called the police to tell them that two black men came to my house. And so the police came to see that nothing was stolen." I was amused. And I said, "Oh, your neighbors are so kind. They are looking after you." The neighbors saw two black men go into this neighbor's house. But we have always gone in and come out. In fact, if she had her way, she would let one of my kids live with her. We had such a wonderful relationship. And these are the kind of friends I say they never made me feel any different. And so when we're talking about racial discrimination, it is real. We're not making it up. We're not making it up. I had a young woman say to me, "I know that we as white people are more intelligent than you as black people because you only have the physical strength. We have intelligence." And I said, "Where did you learn that from? Who told you that?" So these are the things that people have been so conditioned with. So they react. They react. They see you in a shop and all eyes are on you because they've been told that black people are thieves. They're coming to steal something from you. Like the police went to my old friend's house to see that nothing was stolen. It is sad. It is sad that we can have beautiful, enriching relationship with each other, respect for each other, and enjoy this very short life together. But this kind of conditioning has ruined many, many relationships. Okay. Last but not the least, I could go on. I could go on. I could go on. Last but not the least, I was working a night shift and we had this man on admission who I think he loved to press the bell. And we were quite busy that night. He pressed the bell. I went to answer the bell and he goes, "Can you call my daughter to be here this instant?" Okay, this was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I went to check his records, and the only daughter that he has lives in Australia. So he pressed the bell again. "Have you called her?" And I said, "Do you mean your daughter in Australia?" He goes, "Stupid. Who else will I call? She's the only daughter I have." And I said, "Okay, okay. We could call her, but I don't think it is possible for her to be here this instant." He wasn't happy, so I went. I went. And then a few minutes later, he rang the bell again. And some of the girls I was working with said, let's go, Hannah. And I said, "No, I'll go. You can come and listen in." So I went and he goes, "Oh, it's you." And I said, "Of course it is me." And then he goes, "Isn't there anybody there with a bit more sense I can talk to?" Then I said, "Oh, I don't think so. Anybody with a bit more sense will sleep in their bed at night. But I'm working a night shift. That doesn't make me a person with a bit more sense." So we left her there. We left him there. And the next morning, during handover, I didn't even mention it. But the girls mentioned how abusive the man was. I didn't think it was worth reporting because there were you experience so many people like that. So you make up your mind to be the peacemaker. You make peace and you let people know that even though you get hurt, when it is something that happens, as often as it does, you don't even make a fuss about it. Let it wash over you. And so I know that many people have experienced even worse discrimination than this. And the whole system, it is the whole system. Okay? It is the whole system. We could go on forever, but it is the whole system. So today I just want to come and say, yes, I have got friends who never make me feel different. And yet, yes, I've also experienced racial discrimination. Thank you for listening.